Hello, friends. Today I'm going to be talking about data security not from the perspective of a security person, but from the perspective of a data person, myself. I'm Danielle Leong, a data engineer, and what I'm talking about today is going to be how security decisions are affected with modeling and also the creation of dashboards and reports. So the problem is that PII can go untracked when it's either sent to vendors or violate privacy concerns when it's being modeled in a way that isn't being tracked and labeled. Either vendors are manipulating data and de-anonymizing it without the knowledge of either your consumers or your internal teams, or you have reports with sensitive information that are being shared via email, via Slack, and passed along people who may not necessarily need to see the sensitive information, but are still seeing them because they looked at a more finely grained report and they wanted to aggregate for whatever reason. So what can you do as a security person to make sure that this doesn't happen? Some of the things that you can do are looking at access controls, especially for tools where people are given the data and presented it. For example, Looker and Tableau, where these dashboards provide people with necessary information without requiring them or making it necessarily super easy to manipulate and pass around. Looker has its own tools for providing access control, and that can be set in a very specific way. It can be a bit confusing when it's not known where exactly PII is going downstream or which models are exposing PII and which dashboards those are part of and who has permissions to those. So that's one way that folks can make sure that data isn't being viewed by the wrong people or by people who don't necessarily need access to sensitive information. Another way that it can be promoted is by providing very clear direction on best practices for modeling, keeping sensitive data and PII out of more open schemas and keeping them in more tightly guarded schemas within a database so that only select folks have access to them, especially in an org where folks are more data savvy, might have some more SQL knowledge, and be querying databases themselves. One of the other concerns, especially when going to vendors, is my data being de-anonymized? Should I be doing that? And is that a problem? Generally, a lot of advertising agencies will look to find as much information as possible on the user and try to consolidate a user identity via marketing information, device information. And the marketing profile can come from a social, it can come from someone's email, it can come from a variety of sources. And the thing is that that information shouldn't necessarily be rejoined to other bodies of information. For example, if you're a car dealer and you decide that you want to start looking into how to de-anonymize devices of people that visited your store, not necessarily something that you should be doing. And just because it's something that you're not doing internally doesn't mean a vendor might not be doing it. Consider the data sources that your vendor might have and what exactly the project that's been signed off on entails. So that's what you can do as a security person, but what can you do as a consumer? So the thing is that there's no precise answer for this. We don't always have control over PII or sensitive information, and we're not always tracking where it's going. So one of the things that we can focus on is tracking where we're submitting our information and which places that we submit our information also have clauses that say that they'll either sell it or hand it off to third-party marketers. How we can opt out, since the process tends to be an opt-out process for your privacy rather than an opt-in one, and we can really push for tools to monitor where our PII lives and who it gets sold to. A lot of focusing on this will require the pushing of stronger legislation to come, especially as the digital age has accelerated companies to the point where they are ahead of legislation in many cases. So that's all for today. I hope I provided some good food for thought, and I'll be around for questions.